You welcome along to the Keith Andrews Show. We're going to be previewing the Northern Ireland game tonight. Joined in the studio by Nathan Murphy.
You're going to have to give it you're going to have to give it a better sell than that.
Well, I think it's been spending a little bit of time with you that's made me kind of go. You're not.
So we're going to spend an hour talking about Ireland, Northern Ireland, a friendly international. This is going to be some really good stuff coming your way over.
I came in optimistic, but then you've just drained it out of me. You're not looking forward to it as much, are you?
It's a friendly. That's all it is. Do you ever get excited about friendlies?
Yeah.
Did you get excited about friendlies when you were playing in them?
Yeah, because I got my opportunity in a friendly, and most of them do. And that's the way I would look at it. The ones that get the opportunity, that don't normally, it's an opportunity for them to shine and plant the seed with the management. And equally, the ones that are, look, there's places for grabs in that team at the moment. Anyway, we know that. And it's a case of, we need this type of game. I think it's a really good friendly going into Monday, given certain amount of minutes to players that need them, having a lot of game time at club level. Robbie Brady being a prime example, obviously with his injury.
Look, there's no doubt there's benefits to having a match 4 days before a big game. It's just that the Nations League was sold as a slightly more competitive version of a friendly, and we've all sat through terrible friendlies. Some of us have played in these terrible friendlies and have been responsible for them.
You leave Kevin Kilbane alone.
I'm just saying that actually, now that we're stuck with just a plain old run-of-the-mill friendly, when there's Nations League games on tonight, there's actual proper competitive football, you're like...
Yeah, but this is our team. I don't really care about the other teams. This is our team. And I would like to see a little bit of progression from last month. Certainly in the we'll get stuck into it in a little bit, but certainly with the system. I don't want to...
It's
going back to a
month ago for the doubleheader against Wales and Denmark, our last game was a friendly against Poland, and Martin O'Neill said confidence has been restored after getting that draw over in Poland. Did you feel watching that doubleheader that confidence had been restored because of what happened in the friendly? So that game was actually irrelevant to what happened a month later?
No, it wouldn't be that far in terms of the opposites where you're going with it. I don't think confidence was restored. I think we just kind of steadied the ship a little bit. We stopped the rot after getting dismantled in Cardiff, and then there was a little bit of let's just tone things down here moving forward to the following month, which was last month. But I'm a little bit more optimistic than you, and I'm looking forward to seeing some players tonight. I'm intrigued to see what way we play.
I'm not pessimistic about it. I wouldn't say I'm excited. I'm far more excited about Aarhus on Monday.
Yeah, but would you rather than a week of just training in preparation for that? I know financially it's a reason why these friendlies go on, but would you rather just a training?
I don't know if it makes a huge amount of difference. I don't know. So there is a benefit, obviously, of getting Robbie Brady a few minutes here and there. I think with a different manager, maybe there is a huge benefit to a friendly where you go out tonight, and maybe this happens, and you play a 3-5-2 or a 5-3-2 or whatever your formation is for Monday night, and you have players in certain positions and you try and work in a little bit of structure and your little triangles and little triggers that everybody knows, and then it's replicated on Monday night, some of the things we've seen tonight.
Yeah, well,
I just haven't seen enough of that during O'Neill's tenure, that it's not just throw enough stuff at the wall and tonight it'll fall this way and on Monday night it'll fall another way.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting at in terms of what I would like to see tonight. I want to see the same system, because otherwise, what was the point of last month? Because it certainly wasn't performances. We didn't get the results, but there has to be something worked on going into this. So they've been in camp since Monday morning. You're building up to this game. Tick boxes in terms of minutes played. Get players in peak condition, or as best they can be prepared for the Monday game, which is obviously the more important. But obviously, in his reign, we haven't always seen that consistency of players, systems, style. Whereas there has to be a little bit now, especially with the amount of players we've got in this squad now that are relatively new to it.
Yeah, like you'd have to imagine, surely, that we now play 3 at the back for both these games. There's no way that doesn't happen, is there?
I don't know, Nathan. That's what I'm kind of keen to stress. That I said it.
So what you think that maybe that Seamus Coleman is back, Matt Doherty's not available. He thinks Seamus Coleman's best position is as a straightforward right back.
He mentioned it about Matt Doherty. He was asked yesterday with Glenn Whelan in the press conference.
Make some subtle changes.
Yeah. Well, why? Well, I don't understand that, because we've an embarrassment of riches to a degree at right back, inverted commas, with Seamus, Matt Doherty and Cyrus Christie, although he sees him in central midfield, or certainly been a versatile one. But I would have liked to have seen, I've said this before, Seamus Coleman as one of the 3 centre halves on the right, Matt Doherty as the right wing back. But Doherty not being available, no problem. You could still try that with Cyrus Christie as a right wing, or just play Seamus Coleman as a right wing back. I don't see the big issue. And just because one player, being Matt Doherty, who let's be right here, hasn't exactly been a fixture in the team, because he's not available, we can't play three at the back.
A month ago, Martin O'Neill literally said we had to accommodate the boy.
Young Doherty. Yeah, so look, I don't know. Let's have a little look what we got coming up on the show. We're going to chat Irish Circus returns, John Walters, Gerry Taggart. We're going to talk sacking season, and of course Wayne Rooney. If we get time, we'll touch on him and his farewell. Okay, well, I think we're going to go listen to a little bit of the presser yesterday. We're talking about Glenn Whelan, his last game, maybe not in his eyes, but looking like his last game, his 85th and out. Differing views, I think, on Glenn Whelan. I've played alongside him. I spoke to John Walters earlier on, which we had to pre-record because he was in Manchester Airport getting a flight over to watch the game tonight. And he was quite strong on Glenn Whelan as well. Okay. But I think we're going to listen to what Glenn Whelan had to say yesterday at the press conference.
I think, like I said, the retirement thing is you're dead and buried and you're done. Obviously, the manager over the last 12 months or so was trying to bed new lads in, and obviously that's the way Ireland are going. So I'm more than happy for that. I think these lads have waited a long time. They need some game time and to get some caps under the belt. But I think for me now, obviously looking at it, the next couple of years, now if we hopefully do qualify, so I think for me then I'll be 36, 37. So I think that's way off. But I mean, retirement as in, I don't know what you do, put it down on paper and not being able to be picked again. I'd never do, but I know tomorrow's probably going to be the last time we play for the country.
If you think back to your debut 10 years ago, what do you remember about you as a player then, your feelings and your thoughts when you were about to make your Ireland debut, which is now 84 games ago? Yeah,
like I said, to get one, it's obviously now a great achievement for myself, who's, well, I'd never ever thought that I'd get 85. So I think if you speak to any player who comes in, now it's a massive achievement for wherever to get into international football. So obviously Serbia was the first game. Now I think I've been quite lucky to play in now some good games and some top games.
It's quite strange to hear Glenn actually speak. I don't think he knew he was going to that press conference, or he didn't give much notice.
No, we never heard a huge amount, and you never got the sense from Glenn Whelan he wanted to tell.
What were your experiences of Glenn Whelan from
a media point of view? Very little. He treated us, I think, with a little bit of disdain, which I guess was understandable. I would have quite often gone to Stoke games and tried to grab a word, and generally, you know, Irish players are very good after matches and will stop and chat to you. Glenn, I don't think, ever did. And sort of actually, I do remember a situation where he would speak to the Stoke reporters and then it'd come to the Irish reporter and he'd skip on by. And the Stoke reporters couldn't speak more highly of him, of how accommodating he was, of how good he was around the club. But obviously, because there was some very, very vocal critics of him who went over the top at times, overly personal, he was unable to separate one strong voice from the media as a whole. And there's, without question, he has been the most criticised Irish footballer for the last 10 years.
He took the brunt of a lot of the criticism, even during Trapp's days.
Well, he is seen as your typical Trapp footballer who was the reflection of Irish midfielders changing, that they didn't take responsibility, they took the easy option, just played a simple ball back to the back four, didn't take on responsibility the way, with John Giles we've on this evening, would want to see midfielders. That he was your traditional, as it is now, a holding midfielder, whereas you want more. And then because Wes Houlihan wasn't getting in the team, now it was never a Houlihan or Whelan. Like, you played with him. You say we never heard much from him there. It's unusual to hear him talk. Would you hear him talk much in the dressing room?
No, Glenn was, and I presume still is, maybe the last few years he's become more of the senior figure with certain players leaving the international scene. Maybe may have taken on that responsibility more, but he's a fairly quiet individual. Even on the pitch, Glenn's quite quiet, goes about his business very well, very professional. You don't last as long as he has at the top end of the game. Nearly 300 appearances for Stoke in the Premier League. Gets a good move to Aston Villa. You don't really look at Stoke's fortunes since he left, because he was a vital cog in that. And for Ireland, I've said to you before that we would hear little bits and bobs of criticism. It's not as if after we lose a game or the performance wasn't very good, you've got people on the phone saying X, Y and Z are criticising you. I didn't never really wanted to hear that, and I certainly wouldn't have read either good or bad press, because you kind of just keep your head down. And I think he was very much like that, even more so.
But when it was so consistent and so vitriolic at times,
and some of it was ridiculous.
And the problem is, and maybe we're all responsible for this, is that a lot of Irish football fans took their attitudes towards Whelan from what was being said post-game on the television. And then the second he made the slightest mistake, people were on his back. Now, there have been games recently where you would look at that Irish team and go,
well, he's been missing with
Glenn Whelan in there
the last 12 months, and I have been critical of the performances and the way the team has gone in the last 12 months. He has been missing. Another player, Robbie Brady, for different reasons, has been missing. I've mentioned Stoke. When he left, what happened? They got relegated.
Yeah, they tried to replace him.
So there's these roles within a team. Wes Hoolahan could not do what he did brilliantly well without someone like a Glenn Whelan at the base of that midfield. There's ingredients of a football team that are needed to be successful. Fernandinho at Manchester City. If you had a midfield of David Silva, Bernardo Silva and Sterling Sane, it just would not work. You need certain types in a midfield area, and I just think the way he goes about his business, the other thing I would say about the media side and the criticism and the way he goes about his business, he doesn't crave the attention. He doesn't play the game, in inverted commas. He doesn't play to the crowd, play to the media, not on social media, trying to be popular. He's very much a player's player. Wants to do the role for the team in an unselfish, not very glamorous manner. And Johnny's mentioned it, he's not one that was going to do step overs and fly past people, but a vital cog in what has been a decade now.
Well, you probably played more games with him in the middle of midfield than anybody did.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy playing with him? Did you feel you could play to your best because he was alongside you, or how did that relationship work?
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go to that extreme because of the way the team was set up. I always felt during that time that even I was a little bit restricted in terms of what I was doing at club level at certain clubs, the ability to get forward. An engine was a big part of my game, and I felt I could score more goals or get in positions to score more goals. And then the other aspect of that would have been, you've already mentioned it, Wes Hoolahan. Inside the camp, we wanted him involved. We wanted him playing. We were obviously overrunning midfield. And when you have someone like myself and Glenn, there's obviously differences between our game, but we both were kind of holding defence-minded midfielders in the main, but playing in a very defensive way. So it was frustrating at times, but certainly playing with him, you obviously recognise, you've heard this, I'm sure, countless times from sports, but you don't realise what a good player they are until you train with them, play with them, and his professionalism as well.
Had he good game intelligence? Yeah. I asked because actually I think the last time I saw him play live in a club match was for Stoke against Liverpool at Anfield, and they brought him off the bench with around 15-16 minutes left. They were trying to hold on to a result. I remember watching him pretty closely and just how good he was without the ball. So Liverpool were trying this, that and the other, but he just stood on the edge of his own D, directing matters, pointing out. He never really moved more than 10 yards either way.
I think I remember that game.
But every time Liverpool were about to do something, he just stepped out at the right time. And he looked at him and thought, God, you never appreciate that. Maybe you just don't see it when you're not there. Or maybe that because it was following orders from Trapattoni. And that is the other thing. Clearly managers absolutely rate him because they always picked him because I guess he was better than anybody else at doing what he was told.
Tony Pulis tried to upgrade him time after time. And what happened?
Gianni
Mbula, exactly. There's been countless down through the years at Stoke. Charlie Adam being another one. The fact that he wanted to get maybe a more mobile, a better technical player, all these type of attributes.
Did he have that in his locker? Because that is the one thing. So listen,
technically,
I'd be a complete hypocrite if I sat here and said I've never criticised Glenn Whelan. We all have. We've all said every time he gets the ball and he plays the simple pass instead of trying to send it in quick behind for Robbie Keane or giving it to one of the more creative players, just gives it back to the centre half. Was there more in his locker? Did he have that part of his game where he could have actually done that and he just chose not to, or was actually that?
I don't know whether it was chose not to, because I would play against them for Stoke, not so much on that Pulis, because they were very rigid, very pragmatic, very defensive as well. But you would see maybe under Mark Hughes there was a slight evolution in the way they played. And again, at Aston Villa, there's a lot more freedom to his game. He wasn't as maybe, even in our pomp, as dynamic as I would have been going forward. But in terms of playing that holding role and his range of passing, I've seen it at club level. So it goes back to the manager's instructions, or certainly under Trapp's reign, I would suggest, and under Martin's reign, maybe the lack of consistency in the way that they played. I don't know, because I'm guessing to a degree, but he certainly... Do I think we've seen the best of him in a green shirt? No, I think he's probably played better in a red and white shirt at Stoke, if I'm perfectly honest. But that's not to say that he hasn't been a valuable part of what we've done in getting to 2 European Championships. And now he's the most capped Irish midfielder of all time.
Yeah, it's incredible, really. And Kieran Cunningham's often on the show, and I think he might point to Glenn Whelan as the example. Like, people go, Glenn Whelan was useless. Glenn Whelan was useless.
That's nonsense.
Glenn Whelan
nonsense.
is actually, when you look at what he's achieved, one of our greatest sports people of the last 10 years. He's played as many Premier League games as anybody.
Yeah.
The toughest league, arguably in world sport, to break into. He's played as many games as any other Irish person. So he's obviously done something right. Yeah,
and it's his character, it's his focus, his professionalism, daily, every single week. The way he goes about his business in an unassuming manner has just been very impressive. And to last that long, what you were mentioning, is just so impressive.
Should he be playing tonight?
Yeah, well, I've no problem with the farewell. They're obviously going to make him captain. He's going to walk the team out with his lad, which is a lovely gesture. But if we go back to where we started this conversation, there has to be not just one eye, there has to be nearly 2 eyes on Monday's game against Denmark. And the progression from last month, playing the back three, should he be starting? No, I don't think so. I think it should be more along the lines of Wayne Rooney's farewell at Wembley, coming on in the dying stages. I would have liked to have seen 60 minutes of what we're going to be doing on Monday.
Yeah, that's why I'm not excited about this game. Maybe I'll be more excited about the team. I agree, I actually would like to see good farewells for anybody who's played 50 caps or more, that there's some sort of acknowledgement, because we heard from Alan McLaughlin this week that there's been nothing really. The FAI have apologised, said it was an oversight, but there seems to be oversights for 20-year anniversaries for Brian Kerr's team. It's 30 years since Euro 88. There seems to be constant oversights from what should be brilliantly memorable anniversaries where we get our heroes back in the stadium, and people applaud Alan McLaughlin, who is, I don't want to say he's one of the forgotten people. He's still on air with us quite a lot and is doing his own gig and is still involved in football, very much so in England. But to get him out at the Aviva in front of a big crowd and people to go, you know what, that goal that night was one of the most important nights in my life, because of not just that night, what it led to
the following
summer. And the people of Ireland would love that. The Irish supporters would love nothing more than to applaud Alan McLaughlin back on. And I think it's good that they get Glenn Whelan out there. But again, I don't understand why James McLean is playing tonight. If we're trying to build something towards Monday, and I'm sure McLean is desperate to play this evening,
for obvious reasons.
But he's suspended. He's not going to be playing in Denmark. So go out with the starting 11 that's going to start in our house, or what you think is. But if you're just going to be playing players because, well, we're going to put together a mishmash of a team, like, I wouldn't play Seamus Coleman if that's the case tonight. I would think Coleman's just back from injury. Give him a break. A good week off mightn't be the worst thing for him right now, unless you're saying, Seamus, you haven't played in this new system with 3 at the back and you're playing at right wing back. I want you to get used to it.
Or centre half or whatever.
Exactly, yeah, whatever it is.
Robbie Brady coming back, if we're marking him to start on Monday night, which I would be amazed if he doesn't, because he has been back in and around of training for quite a while. Just game time has been limited, so his fitness levels will be up there. Match sharpness obviously won't be.
I would love to see first choice 11, Seanie Maguire playing up front, who is still very inexperienced at this level, but he has a good, strong team of Coleman, Brady, Duffy, Keogh, all these players in and around them. Harry Arter, if he's going to start, or David, whoever's going to start on Monday in that midfield role. Yeah. That they can build up some sort of a relationship rather than what may well happen, and I really hope it doesn't. 5 of the team that start tonight end up starting on Monday.
Yeah, I know, I'm with you on that. I really am, and I've said it right from day dot when we came into these games. I wanted to see some kind of consistency from last month into this month, and especially focusing on Monday's night game in Denmark. What have you made of the Michael Obafemi saga?
God, I'm just fed up with it all.
I am. I find it quite farcical. I really do. He's a player that's been involved, and I think this is something that's going to happen more often than not in the coming years because of the nationality issues. He's actually eligible for 3, isn't he? Ireland, England and Nigeria. So just in a tweet on screen from Kevin Kilbany's in response to Dan McDonald's, Matt O'Neill indicates that Michael Obafemi wants more time to think about his international future, so will not be going to Denmark even if he does play tomorrow. Kevin Kilbany comes back with, look, but you can't touch anyone else, fancy a trial run. And he's got a point. That's where I think it's farcical. I just look at it, I think, why are we in this situation? Surely this should have been ironed out before calling him up. We've even had this with Jimmy Dunn. Played 20 minutes for the 21s. Michael O'Neill meets him for a cappuccino, well-publicised cappuccino. I know why we're in this situation because of the eligibility.
If I'm an 18-year-old who was born in Mayo, whose parents are from Mayo and grandparents are from Mayo, I'd still be getting my agent to say, do you know what, actually one of my grandparents was born in England and I could possibly go and play there.
No, you wouldn't.
Because you're more likely to get called up. Like, where are the actual... My problem is, Michael Obafemi, I agree with what Kev says in that tweet of, are we just throwing people in randomly in the vague hope that they might stay? I don't agree with his greater point of how this develops with younger players in that, you know, you're either in or you're out. It's a very difficult situation for somebody like Michael Obafemi, who you say can play for 3 different countries, was born in Dublin, grew up in London, and his parents are Nigerian, and may well have grown up the way Kevin did in the Irish community in Preston. He may well have come through the Nigerian community in London, and if he wants to play for them, that's fine. I just do not understand why he's in this squad.
I'm with you.
He's 18. Yeah. He's played 15, 16 minutes in the Premier League this season. Maybe he is the next big thing. But is he the best 18-year-old in Irish football right now?
Not that I've seen, no. And I've coached a few of the younger ones. Adam Ida from Cork, he would be a year younger. Plays at Norwich, playing on the 23s football. Aaron Connolly.
Just scored a hat-trick for Brighton this week.
Yeah, is his age. Flying, scored in the Czech trade a hat-trick, yeah. And they must be thinking, really? Really, we're knocking on the door. The manager's constantly going on about no goals.
Well, that's the point I'm making. Why is Aaron Connolly not in this training squad? Because he's from Galway. I presume his entire family tree is 100% Irish.
I presume so, yeah.
There's no other option.
Yeah.
So therefore, we know he's not going to go anywhere. Whereas we're bringing Michael Obafemi in, saying enjoy training, but you don't have to come to Denmark if you don't want to because it's still too soon for you to commit. Well, he doesn't need to come into training for that.
Yeah,
he doesn't need to be here. And in fact, it feels like it's backfired. That suddenly there's a storm around this. That now every single training camp, where's Michael Obafemi? Yeah. After every Southampton game, somebody will be trying to nab him. Have you made a decision yet? It's like, I'm 18. I'm not going to be playing international football for 3 years regardless. I just came over for a training session.
It's just where we are, obviously, with what's gone on in the last 6 months, 9 months with that.
Do we not need to learn?
Yeah,
so you say, like this. You're right. This is going to happen, and I'm very much of the case. I don't care what country people play for. If they want to play for Ireland, play for Ireland. If they were born in Ireland, as is going to happen, and they feel a Polish heritage or a Nigerian heritage, and you want to play for Poland or Nigeria, fire ahead. I don't care if we brought you up through the entire underage.
We can't do anything, or we can only do so much at the underage levels, which these players have been a part of. Declan Rice all the way through. Obafemi played 17s, 19s, certainly to my knowledge. So there's only so much that the underage staff can do in nurturing these players along and identifying in the first place. So that's great. But you're right, they have got the options. But should he be in the squad this week? In my opinion, no.
But those underage coaches are essentially doing that in private. There's nobody asking questions of the 10 lads who were born in England, as seems to be the case in quite a few of the squads right now. But when it gets to the senior level and the craziness of the coverage, we need to figure something out very quickly in terms of just privacy.
Yeah.
Was the best thing to do here at Michael Obafemi work behind the scenes. Can you bring him into a training session and people don't even know he was in? Can you bring him into the hotel at night for the quizzes where you go, this is what we do?
Yeah. Couple of days.
Rather than he knows. And now, Rice, it's a pain in the ass. Like he hasn't done anything wrong here. Brian O'Neill, I think, was almost saying to him to be thing. They sort of blackmailed me into playing. So I think from Martin O'Neill's point of view, there at least he's right. But just making it public puts so much pressure because it has blown up massively. Like, who's next? Who's next in line?
Well, there will be. There'll be more, won't there? Okay, we need to move it on. I caught up with Johnny Walters. He was in Manchester Airport, just getting a flight over to watch the game tonight. Delighted to be joined on the line by Johnny Walters. Johnny, give us a little injury update. What is it, about 6-7 weeks?
I think I'm about 6 weeks in the boot now. This cast boot that I've got to wear, and I think I've got about another week in that, a week, 10 days in that, and then hopefully get that off and then start getting it moving a little bit. Went to see the specialist last week, and all the scar tissues there filled in. It's just got to mature now. So, but as I said previously, it's a long process, but it's part and parcel of it.
How's the patience levels?
I'm all right. You know what? I'm all right. I think my arms are bigger than my legs at this point in time.
They always were.
I'm just doing arm bike, and ropes, and ski machine 6 days a week. A little bit on the legs, and yeah. So no, I'm okay. To be fair, I'm okay. I'm just cracking on with it. So head down and work hard, and then see where it gets me.
Good stuff. You're doing a little bit of media coming over here in the airport at the moment, so if we're hearing any flight departures, you know what that is. Coming over to do the game tonight. I want to touch on Glenn Whelan. Obviously, you would know him as well, if not better than me, in terms of your time at Stoke together. It's probably going to be his farewell game tonight. He's been a magnificent servant for us, hasn't he?
No, look, he's been superb. And what's it, 85th cap? Not too sure many midfielders have more. I think he might be the
he's the most capped midfielder. Yeah.
So I think that says it all, really. I think obviously he hasn't been in the squad for the past year or so, or been involved. But he's been at Aston Villa and playing the majority of games. And you know, Glenn's one of those where people probably criticise him down the years because he doesn't score goals or he doesn't do step overs or take players on, but he does an important job for the team. And when you're that type of player, I think from the outside, yeah, people are always looking for an upgrade, always a younger player. What can I do? And I think that's just the way football is. And you know, if you're on the inside, you see a little bit more of what actually goes on with it.
I think you've mentioned it there about the upgrade, and probably no more so than Stoke. And I think we've spoke about this before. I think Tony Pulis, year after year, and then Mark Hughes as well, looked for that upgrade, didn't he? And I think you fell into that category as well. And ultimately, when both teams left the building, Stoke ended up in the Championship. But year after year, he defied those odds, I suppose, with big players, and I mean big players in terms of the transfer fees and maybe reputations. But more often than not, Glenn got that place back.
Yeah, well, he did. You know, you're right. I felt myself fall into the same sort of category, and it was more a case of the club moving forward as a club. And I always said, you know, if you're standing still, you're going backwards, because our clubs always want to move forward and always want to upgrade on you, and there's always someone ready to take your place. But it was more prevalent so with Stoke, I think. Yeah, I'm with Glenn. I've seen it down the years. You know, every transfer window with signed players. Yeah, he'd still play. I think it annoyed the hierarchy probably a little bit, but at the end of the day, he was doing a job for the team, and he was a better player for that job. So he went through a lot of players trying replacement. Never really happened. Yeah, as you said, he left. I'm not saying, you know, that's a reason anything happened with Stoke or that, but it just coincided with the fact that, you know, a few of us left, and it just the team sort of changed a little bit. But you know, as you said, just talking about him, 85 caps. There's a reason he's got 85 caps. It's not because he's an average player. He does a job that, you know, that goes unseen for most of it. It's not a glamorous job. It's not a job that catches headlines, but it's a job that needs to be done, really, in a team.
I want to touch on another teammate of yours, club level, Robbie Brady, back in tonight. He's had a terrible run, hasn't he, with injury, a real serious injury, and then he's picked up a couple of little niggles on the way back, but it's good to see him back in the fold tonight.
Yeah, look, he had a very serious one. Up to your patella tendon and reattach it and things like that. It's a big operation, and with time like that, it takes time to come back. It takes a long time to come back, and then obviously along the way you might change your running style or pull that muscle a little bit tighter. And he had a few niggles, but he's been training for a long, long time now. So he's more than ready, and he's been involved with Burnley and getting that sharpness back. And look, when you're out for an injury like that, it takes a while to get back home. You don't just come back in 2 games and you're flying. It takes a while to get back home. But look, I see him, every day of the week, and he's Robbie's sharp as anything. I think he's halfway through his injury coming back, and he looks sharper than me. He's just that sort of player, and Robbie's itching to get going, itching to play. Talk about patience level. I don't think Robbie has any. He's just desperate to get going and playing and doing well, and I know he's really missed it. So yeah, hopefully he'll be in and pull up some strings in the team. Yeah,
he's a massive player for us, isn't he? And certainly missed him over that period. And we mentioned about Whelan being out of the equation during the last year. Robbie Brady's been obviously a massive player missing. Where would you see him playing? Where if we do keep to this 3 at the back, would you stick him left wing back, or would you stick him in the heart of midfield?
Because they haven't been around. I don't know what. Obviously, we've gone with 3 at the back, so maybe that's a formation that's going to stay on. Maybe that's a formation that's going to be, prevalent now in the team. And with Robbie, I've played against him when I've been on the right for Stoke, and he's played left back. And I was thinking you couldn't really get past him because he's fast, sharp, he's attacking like your modern day fullback. But then Robbie can play higher up, and if you remember the Italy game, for example, in the Euros, he played a more of a narrow midfield, and almost like a diamond. He played inside, and he was unbelievable there. So I think he can play anywhere across the pitch, even in behind the striker, because he's that good on the ball. He gets it. He can get past people. He has an unbelievable strike on him, and plus a bonus for the team. Set pieces. We've gone on a lot of this in previous games, especially the last one where delivery wasn't on it, and with him on it, taking free kicks, corners, his set pieces. It's rare you come across someone as good as him.
I'm with you, Johnny.
Probably on a par with him.
With his
Gerry and Robbie, pretty similar delivery.
I'm with you in terms of anywhere he plays, he's going to be effective. So is it a case of Martin needs to work out where maybe he's a little bit deficient, or where he's stronger, where he can manoeuvre the team around, but it's just a case of he plays, end of story?
Yeah, he plays and get him on the ball, and for me, all day. And you know how it works. Sometimes it's injuries, sometimes little bits and bobs that you've got to fit players in certain positions, so that might mix it up. But the bonus for having Robbie, and he can play in a number of positions. And it'll be interesting to see what we go with tonight and how we'll set up. But I think it's imperative to get him on the ball.
You mentioned the 3 at the back, and we've gone with it in some of the friendlies in the last 6 months or so, and we kept to it last month, both games. And I thought there was a little bit of progression from the Denmark game into the Wales game. I know the result didn't go away, but I thought there was progression in terms of the way the system was implemented. I think he's probably going to go that way. Do you like the look of that system, or do you prefer us to go with the back 4?
Well, I think with 3 at the back, it gives you that bit of security, and we shipped a lot of goals previous to it, so it gives you that security, a 3 at the back. But you'll have Seamus really pushing on, and he's almost like a winger, isn't he? He ends up assisting and scoring goals, so he'll be up there. So it gives someone the freedom to do that. And I don't know who'll play on the left if we go in that formation. Looking, even if Robbie's there, in that formation, then it's like touching back on Glenn Whelan. It's impressive that sitting midfield that does a job and just covers and fills in left back, right back, gets on the ball, slows it down and stuff like that. So it was good. It was good, and the last couple of games, and you can see the progression with it. It'll be nice to see, a little bit more again. That'll come with game time. And bear in mind, it's international football, so you don't get a lot of time to do that shape and work on it. But if players have played it at a club level, they'll have an idea. But a 3 at the back also, it lets that centre off really come out and step out with it. And I'd like to see that a bit more if we play our position to Shane Duffy or Kevin Long to step out, play in front and make him step out, because you've still got the other 2 to cover you behind you. You
mentioned Seamus Coleman. I know Matt Doherty will have a kind of a fringe benefit on this with terms of not being able to play, but Seamus, I would like, and I said this going back to the USA game at the end of the season, when you're trialling things and you're looking at different systems and personnel, I would have liked to have seen Seamus as one of the 3 centre halves, Now, I know that takes a lot away from what he does going the other way, but I just think the age he's getting to, and you've mentioned it there, that ability to just step in and be comfortable on the ball and set us up in terms of what we're going to do in an attacking sense. Could that be something Martin goes with possibly?
It's a good shout. He's obviously comfortable on the ball. He will step in. His height, you could probably say, goes against it, but then again, I've played against smaller centre-halves, and sometimes they're more difficult actually in the air against your bigger ones. So, it just depends how on the other players. Again, going with other players, you'll have Shane Duffy, Kevin Long, Richard Keogh, Kieran Clark. Not too sure injury-wise where everyone's sitting with Everton. So it all sometimes depends on how you get on club level if you play, and there's so many things to juggle at the time. But yeah, it's not a bad shout to try in there, and why not in a game that there's not points riding on it in a league to try something like that.
Yeah. So what do you want to see tonight then? What's the main part of the game or
I want to see us win. I want to see a win.
We're all craving.
I think it breeds confidence when you win, and it'll be a massive boost for everyone. But I want to see some. We've touched up on it, and I've played in it past few years. It's almost like when we're at home, we play like an away team.
Yeah,
we give the team possession. We're not really like a Liverpool or a Man City on the break where we have that pace where we go and full at it. So when you do surrender possession so much, you end up picking the ball on the edge of your box, and it's sometimes difficult to watch. It's very difficult to play in as a player. So I know the players will want to be getting on the ball and making things happen. You want to see chances, you want to see an exciting game, but the end result, I think we need to win.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. We're going to let you go. I know you're boarding soon, and I'll see you later on the stadium, pal. Thanks for taking the time.
Okay, no problem.
Pal.
Cheers, Keith.
That was Johnny Walters.
We need the win.
Great fella. We need the win. Performance, consistency, blooding a few with an eye on Monday.
Did you ever play Mario Kart?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm just thinking of all the banana skins. That's Martin O'Neill's life right now. Whereas this should be just a ordinary run-of-the-mill friendly. Yeah. I think it's at such a low ebb that it feels like we're just constantly one game from crisis. He's one game from slipping up. And that while this should be a friendly and it'll be a 0-0 draw or 1-0 either side, to either side, you'd imagine. But that if Ireland were to lose at home against Northern Ireland, that actually suddenly going into Monday night, we're back asking questions about their future.
Yeah. I'm with you. You mentioned the banana skins, as if he's going around on his go-kart, kind of throwing his own banana skins at times.
Well, there is a little bit of that. We're talking a lot about tonight's game. Monday night's game is the more important match. There is still the possibility that we could avoid relegation from our group if Wales were to beat Denmark.
You got the permutations there?
Yeah, but either way, I don't see a scenario where we're not going into this game wanting to win, because O'Neill has spoken about potentially if results go a certain way that he may decide to rotate again and,
I can't see that.
And rest some players, because as well as relegation, which looks pretty much nailed on, so we need Denmark to lose their next two games, both ourselves and Wales, to beat them. There's also the seeding for the Euro 2020 draw, and right now we're third seeds. There is still the possibility, if we were to beat Denmark away, that we could force our way back into being a second seed. So currently we're 22nd, top 20, 1 to 10 first seeds, 11 to 20 second seeds. We're on 1 point. There's 3 teams on 3 points. So we get a win, we could possibly leapfrog a couple of them. And that'd be huge, because you look at the second seeds right now, Croatia are a potential second seed. Germany could find themselves dropping into the second seeds if the results don't go well for them over the next couple of days. There's a lot of real quality teams. And remember, only 2 teams go through automatically. If you end up in a group with Germany as the second seed and France and Spain, you simply don't have a hope in hell. Now, again, if you want to get properly into permutations, Keith, we're almost guaranteed a playoff no matter what happens in March 2020, but you don't want to be going into that having got battered for the next 6 months. We just need to win.
We need a win.
And away from home is until Cardiff was generally where things
were quite
we'd gone all right.
Successful, but we need to get back on that. Okay, we're going to look a little bit back. I'm delighted to say former Northern Irish international Gerry Taggart joins us on the line. Gerry, thanks for taking the time.
How you doing, Keith?
Really well, really well. We've got it's 2 days shy of that iconic game 25 years ago. Can you believe it's actually that long since that game? I know you were a young man in that game, Jay. You were only,
I
only a young
can't believe anything in football, Keith. Believe you me. So yeah, I can't believe it. But 25 years, yeah,
staggering. I just before we get going, because we've heard a lot about from the Republic of Ireland lads and their perspective of the game and the whole security aspect and the magnitude of the game, and I suppose for me as well, I was a young kid watching it on the telly with the promise that if we qualified, I'd be getting to go to a World Cup. But I read a piece last week in the Belfast Telegraph from Jim Gracie, and I just want to paint the picture because they're obviously very, very different times. And this is from Jim Gracie. For those young and fortunate enough to have been spared the horrors of that time, the staging of a football match between two neighbouring countries might seem inconsequential, a distraction even, when set against the backdrop of the terrible atrocities on the Shankill Road, at Greysdale, and the litany of murderous attacks less well documented amid the 25-year anniversaries just marked. In a bloody 2 weeks, a total of 23 people were indiscriminately slaughtered in a vicious circle of tit for tat. Didn't football, like all sports here, provide a semblance of normality in the most abnormal of times, but in a pervasive, poisonous atmosphere with tensions ratcheted up and base instincts bringing out the worst in even the normally moderate Northern Ireland versus the Republic in a high-stakes Windsor Park qualifying fixture. In the aftermath, it was a nightmare scenario for the seriously overstretched security forces. So that kind of paints a picture of what it was like, certainly for Jim Grace. Jerry, what are your recollections of that game?
Well, yeah, I can remember there was a lot of bother in and around the ground at the time, and it was kicking off while the game was going on. I'd invited friends to go to that game. Some of them have never been back to Windsor Park, which is a shame. Since that night, obviously it was a massive game. It was a massive game, obviously, for the Republic, because they knew if they got any kind of result, they were qualifying for the World Cup. And obviously, for the nearest and dearest, it was a case of, number one, don't get beat by. You've got to say the better team. Yeah, the Republic had the better team, they had the better players. So it was a case of don't get beat, and number two, go and win the game if you can. And so the atmosphere, it was a red hot atmosphere at Windsor Park. I've never known an atmosphere like it, apart from in the modern day with the new stadium at Windsor Park now. But in those times, that was, the atmosphere was red hot, really red hot.
It was stoked up a little bit as well by your manager, Billy Bingham, in what was his last ever game in charge of Northern Ireland after such a long and noteworthy career. And he seemed particularly taken aback by the game in Dublin, where there was a chance from the squad that there was only one team in Ireland, and that had really sort of ebbed away with him over the 6-7 months in between, to the sense where certainly around the ground he was trying to fire up the fans. Was he like that in the dressing room? Was that brought up in the team talk ahead of the game?
I have to say, that's a side of Billy Bingham I'd never seen before. And obviously, as I say, you can imagine what it's like in the changing rooms, in both changing rooms. The magnitude of the game, as you rightly said, was Billy Bingham's last game in a qualifying campaign. And obviously, the magnitude of what stood in front of the Republic. So imagine Big Jack was, nonetheless more vibrant in his dressing room. But yeah, that's a side of Billy I'd never seen before. But yeah, I think the players themselves, were definitely up. Both sets of players were definitely up for the game. It was a cagey game. It was a tight game. And you could sort of imagine it playing out that way, because of what was at stake.
Gerry, when you look back at that game, there's a lot made from the Republic lads about the security aspect and how they get up, how they get away from the game. From your perspective, was there any worry at all going into that game in terms of the safety of the players, or were you spoken to?
It's hard, For me, I was always a little bit oblivious to all that. We had, obviously, both sides had armed security guards 24/7. Plainclothes police officers, whatever you want to call them. So both sides always had them, at all times. As far as I'm aware, I know we definitely did. So it wasn't really an issue. And I'll be honest with you, Keith, I was, 22 stroke 23 at the time. I think I just turned 23, so I was probably a little bit oblivious to what was going on. Obviously, I'd heard about the troubles that had taken place on the Shankill and that, but I think as far as the football was concerned, I just tried to keep myself out of the way of anything other than, what the football game entailed. But, definitely, if in the lead up to the match, there was a lot of press surrounding it, a lot of hype surrounding it, and so with it being the Northern Ireland versus the Republic, especially in Belfast, and you can imagine back in 1993 what implications that had as regards to the security aspect.
As you say, you're a young guy then. You're only 23, and you're going into as probably a hostile an atmosphere as you've ever played in your entire career, I'd imagine. And with all that had gone on, and as oblivious as you were, and as you tried to probably keep your head down and just focus on yourself, when you're in that atmosphere and you know what has gone on in Northern Ireland over the previous 3 decades, but even over the previous month or so, and the amount of deaths that had taken place, like, was there a part of you while the game was on that was worried that actually this may properly kick off, we could be in trouble here, or did somehow you manage to stay focused on what was just a football match?
No, there was a bit in the game where there was a bit of trouble breaking out, and at one stage, you're thinking, is it going to kick off properly? Thankfully, it didn't, and we got on with the game. When they run up that game, I had enough to worry about with running around, but I think when you're in the thick of it, and then you could hear the crowd going from chanting to, when they just suddenly change the tone, the crowd's tone suddenly changes, and then you look up into one of the stands and you see that it's starting to kick off, and that's when you realise, like, what's going off here. It's obviously there's a lot riding on it. 2 sets of fractious fans, whatever, and then that's when you see it starting to kick off. But thankfully, they managed to get it under control while the game was going on.
Well, Gerry, thankfully it's very different times now, and we're playing against each other tonight. We don't face each other that often. It would be nice to get a game at Windsor Park in the not too distant future. But if you look at Michael O'Neill, and we bumped into each other a few weeks ago, I felt watching him in this campaign in particular, there was a slight different approach to the way he's setting up the team. I know the results haven't been great, but has there been a different style, trying to play a little bit more maybe?
Yeah, but you just look at the 2 fullbacks. He's brought the young lad in from Norwich, Jamal Lewis, who going forward is, he's got great fitness levels, decent delivery on the ball. I've still got plenty of work to do, but definitely somebody who's come on the scene and impressed. And on the other side, Paddy McNair, who's, you could say, is more of a midfield player, holding midfield player, but he's stuck him at right back, and he's encouraging them to get forward and make the overlaps, a more continental style of football, if you want, than what we're used to. So that's probably the marked differences that you've seen, is the 2 full-backs trying to get forward and join in. And to be fair, it's working up to the point where Northern Ireland are creating chances. The problem with Northern Ireland is at the minute that they're just not taking the chances that they're creating, but they're definitely creating chances. So, let's slight headache in one respect for Michael O'Neill because they're not taking the chances, but I think it would be an even bigger headache if he wasn't creating chances.
And Gerry, football fans are never the most patient of bunches, but with what Michael O'Neill has achieved, is there a sense that, all right, there is a transition and a transformation of the style of play happening here, and we're going to give him time? Because when you look at the results, they're going to be relegated from their group in the Nations League. They're not going to be one of the top 2 seeds for the Euro 2020 draw. It's all very well saying we're trying to do something new, but these are actual competitive games that they've been losing that are going to have far-reaching consequences over the next couple of years. Is there still a sense in Northern Ireland, though, that in a way we're lucky to have Michael O'Neill?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's definitely a transitional period. If you look at the players that have come in, I've just mentioned one in Jamal Lewis, the keeper. Bailey Peacock, right, has come in. You've got George Saville coming in. You've got the centre forward from Burton, his name just escaped in a place regularly, even though he's He's called back a couple of experienced players. But so that's 4 players straight off the bat who are now in the team on a regular basis. And even Paddy McNair wasn't really a regular in the team. He was more of a squad player in the lead up to the Euros. And then he obviously had that bad injury. He's come back in, and now he's sort of cemented that place at right back. So that's nearly half your team that he's had to change. And obviously they haven't got the experience of the players that they've replaced. So that in itself is going to take time. I think with this League of Nations thing, I think what has helped Michael is that they are getting experience in competitive games, but they haven't got the experience, and the only way you can get them the experience is by playing them. So I think this was a no-lose situation for Michael. You know, if they had qualified or they had done well and not got relegated, then great. And if we get relegated, it doesn't really matter, even though it is important that you don't get relegated. But what we're doing is giving these young lads vital experience that they probably wouldn't have got if they'd have played in international friendlies. And you know yourself, we play in international football. The friendlies just aren't quite the same standard as intensity as a real thing. And I think that's the one good thing about this new concept is the games that I've watched have been really competitive.
Gerry, I've got to ask you about the other O'Neill, Martin, who's in charge of our team and a manager you know well from your time at Leicester City. Do you think the criticism has been over the top towards him, or where do you stand on it at the moment?
Well, you mentioned football fans, didn't you? Martin O'Neill is one person who I would never ever have a bad word said against. I am biased, and I'm going to admit it. It's as simple as that, because he done a lot for me in my career. He done a lot for the Republic of Ireland. The Republic of Ireland, what you've got to remember about the Republic of, they are not as strong as they were 10 years ago. It's as simple as that. You know, and he's having to juggle with out-of-form players not scoring goals, and the likes of Long, Walters coming to the end, people like that, and then blooding these young lads that are coming through, like Inhurahan, O'Dowda, people like that. And he's got a solid base there, Martin. But unfortunately, he just hasn't got the players that the Republic of Ireland had 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's as simple as that. And that's why they're struggling at the minute. And, you know, you can only work with what you've got. And at the minute, unfortunately for Martin, he is struggling slightly. Yeah. You know, and he needs to find some kind of quality from somewhere. But where is that quality coming from?
Gerry, could you elaborate a bit, maybe, what you're saying about what he did for you during his career? Because we've spoken to a lot of the players who've played under him at Leicester and at Celtic, and everybody raves about working with Martin O'Neill on a personal level. And I don't know, it feels as though we haven't seen that side of him really with this Irish squad so far. Like, what was it about him as a man manager that managed to get the best out of you at Leicester? Yeah,
I think, again, you're going to a time now that doesn't exist in football. You know, you're going back to a time that in the modern game, it just doesn't exist with managers. He just knew exactly how to push all the right buttons that I'd never had with any other manager. Simple as that. He knew how to get that extra 2%, whatever it was, to get over the line, to get the team over the line. And he was the same with every single player. And obviously he treated all the players as individuals, and he had to work out who needed what, which individual needed what. But if you got over the line for him, then, you know, he made you feel like $1 million. There's no doubt about it. You know, if you didn't get over the line for him, then you were a bit of dirt in the bottom of his shoe. And that's the way he worked. Simple. Everything with Martin was black or white. And if you got that bit right, you could do no wrong in his eyes. And that's how he helped me, because he made me focus on what was really important. And what was really important to him was 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, the 4:45. Everything else in between that, I'm not saying wasn't important, but it wasn't the be all and end all. You know, a lot of coaches and managers talk about working hard on the training pitch or focusing on this and that and the other. What Martin did was make it really simplistic for everybody. This is your job. This is what I want you to do. You know, and this is how we win a game of football. If you do this, we will win. And more often than not, he was right.
Gerry, before you go, I just wanted to ask you about Claudio Ranieri. You do a lot of work for covering the Leicester games, bump into you from time to time. What have you made as his appointment at Fulham?
Yeah, I think it's a bit left field. Obviously, his record with Leicester, in the last, in 3-4 years ago, obviously speaks for itself, and so he's obviously been given another opportunity. He's gone back to France in recent times and not done too well. Obviously, got the sack over there, and I think it's a little bit left field. I think it's a bit of a panic appointment, if you're asking me, Keith. I'll be honest with you, but
as in
we'll
appointing him, Gerry, or getting rid of Jokanovic, which angle, or both?
No, listen. We all know how the game works in the modern. I don't know too much about Jokanovic apart from they spent a lot of money in the window. He's bottom of the league, and so when you add those two things together, that equals the sack. It's the appointment of Ranieri. Literally, as soon as he's out the door, Ranieri's straight in. So that tells me that they haven't really done any due diligence as regards the replacing the manager, and no real in-depth due diligence. So that to me spells a little bit of trouble for Fulham, even though Ranieri has got a good track record in this country.
Gerry, listen, appreciate you taking the time. Enjoy the game tonight, pal.
Will do. Cheers,
See you,
Keith.
pal. Good fella. Really good fella. Bump into him time to time, as I've already mentioned.
Yeah.
Always in around the Leicester games.
It's incredible how all those former Leicester and Celtic players rave about O'Neill.
They do, though. And I think it paints the picture quite well that in that time, in that era in football, there wasn't as much detail. Like, Gerry Taggart was an absolute warrior as a footballer. Warrior. Like, he did so well in his career. Leicester being the prime example. I think before that was Barnsley, wasn't it? But in terms of the detail needed, probably not a lot. I think the game has just moved on that much that even from when I played, even when I retired a few years ago, it's constantly moving on. And that would be my question mark with Martin, whether he has evolved, he has moved on in terms of modern day management, modern day players, because what I needed was different to Gerry Taggart. What the centre-halves now need compared to what Gerry Taggart needed is a lot more. He was a leader.
Yeah.
Go back to that team, that Leicester team.
Sure.
Lennon's, Muzzies, they were all leaders.
Big Matt Elliott.
Yeah. Warrior, seeing him at the games as well.
Yeah, I just wonder as well if it's the difference between club management and international management, and because of O'Neill's peculiarities as to the man management, that at a club level nothing ever lingers, because you're in the next day, you sort it out, fast. You go in and batter each other in training, you have a row, people. Whereas here it seems, and I think we've the evidence probably of the last few months, is that things do linger. That actually they're left open and players go back home for 6 weeks and they come back and they're still annoyed about what happened previously. Yeah,
I think it's a fair point. And it requires a different set of skills, doesn't it? International management to club management, because it is daily. But it's where we are. What did you think of Jokanovic getting sacked and Ranieri going in?
I think he had to be sacked. It was
100 million spent.
Absolute madness the way they have started the season, regardless of the money spent. Just the sheer naivety of what he was trying to do, was trying to outplay Manchester City. There's clearly a huge amount of ambition at Fulham from the owner. Yeah. Is he too involved in how the club has been run right now? So you're very much a head coach. Ranieri's seen as a manager, but still won't be in charge of transfers completely. So that would worry you. I think this Fulham team have enough quality. They're not one of the 3 worst teams in the Premier League. But whenever you're sacking a manager and you're appointing your, 4th choice, it's looking like again, the ambition is there. They went after Arsene Wenger.
I agree about the quality that they have. I just wonder about the appetite. That game against Huddersfield a couple of weeks ago, and I know that might have been at the end or coming towards the end of Jokanovic's spell.
Well, that's why I guess there's relegation specialists in terms of saving your club, is that there's people out there who are proven to be able to come in and over that initial 6 week period can somehow get everybody back buzzing and get that fight back in. Is Ranieri that guy?
I think I'm a little bit more with Gerry in terms of it is a little bit out there disappointment. Obviously we know what he did at Leicester City, but I'm not sure about it. I think coming in and being able to deal with that squad and maybe get assists, and be interested to see what kind of coaching staff he brings in, whether he keeps it the same. But they need organisation. They need defensive organisation, quick, smart.
Well, already they're talking about trying to sign Joel Matip from Liverpool.
Right.
So that's obviously the area they're going to focus on.
The ball players in the summer, don't they? Even centre halves, Alfie Mawson, just
On the bench.
Tim Ream and Dennis Adoy playing centre half. I didn't think they were quite elite level of the championship last year. So to go in that manner, I know I showed glimpses against Liverpool last Sunday, and they were quite unfortunate with the way they conceded the goal as well. It shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been a war. Yeah, but it was. Look, they're in a precarious position. But I'm with you in terms of they shouldn't get relegated. There's teams down there that will be a lot more.
He's obviously a good man manager, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would agree with that.
So maybe that's all they need.
And a top-notch coach in to do that side of things. So whoever that may well be.
They just need to stop getting
Shakespeare maybe
battered.
come back in. Do you think maybe that might be it? An avenue he's out of work, I
Possibly.
believe, isn't he? But yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to see how they pan out. So you're not going to the game tonight?
No, I'm in studio with John Giles for the evening.
Beautiful. Tell John I said a lot.
We'll see what he thinks now about Glenn Whelan's career.
Why are you smiling like that?
I'm just interested to hear what John has to say.
John is a fountain of knowledge.
John, which we might chat about, obviously played against Northern Ireland a few times. Played against Martin O'Neill for Northern Ireland.
Did he?
78. Obviously O'Neill just starting out.
Yeah, I didn't think
Giles
they would have
coming
crossed
towards the
paths.
end.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Good fact, that.
And we're also going to talk about, Giles last week brought up a game. We were talking about Bobby Moore. Someone had texted in a question. There was the Bobby Moore documentary, and someone had asked had he ever met him or played with him. And he mentioned he played in a tournament which was called the 3 versus the 6. It was played to celebrate, funnily enough, on today of all days, Ireland and the UK and Denmark joining the EU, or the EC as it was then,
Yeah.
or the common market. So they had a game where it was Ireland, UK and Denmark up against the 6 other countries. So I think Giles was the only Irish player who played, but Bobby Charlton was playing up front,
yeah.
Bobby Moore was centre back, Beckenbauer was playing,
Was he?
Gerb Muller was playing. Oh, two teams were just sensational.
Does that not just show you
Johan
the
Neeskens,
level
oh,
that Johnny Giles was at?
that's what I'm saying.
Phenomenal. Wasn't he?
He was okay.
He was okay.
did all right. He
was
did all
quality,
right.
wasn't He was quality.
He clearly was. Obviously, he was unfortunately sort of a bit before our time.
Yeah.
That's why it's great to talk to him still and remember.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love being in his company.
So I'm spending the day in the company of 2 great Irish midfielders. Doesn't get any better than that, Keith.
Someone else popping in. Cheers, pal. I appreciate
All right.
that.
Thanks, Keith.
That's all we got time for. As per usual, download it on the usual platforms. Until then, we shall see you next week. Take care.